Hi, everyone. This is LocReady Talk with Miss Alums, and joining us today is Carmen Romano. We shared the same spots in school garden, actually. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you, Ren. Thank you so much for inviting me to this interview. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. So my first routine question would be, could you briefly introduce yourself and also tell us what you do every day at work?
Sure. Well, as Ren mentioned, I'm Carmen Romano. I'm a localization solutions architect at a language services provider called CQ Fluency, which specializes mainly in healthcare and life sciences. So that's exciting for this year, especially. I've been in localization for around 6, 7 years. I started out as a freelance translator. I then moved on as a project manager, both in-house and then on a freelance basis. Most of my time I've been a freelancer, and just recently I began this role as a solutions architect at a full-time position at an LSP. And I graduated from MIS last year, just like Ren was saying. We share the same school and same garden plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Why did you want to become a localization solutions architect in the first place?
Well, I was very interested in the role because I feel solutions architecture is a very hands-on role, and it's a role where you can really get your hands dirty. So there's never a dull day in solutions architecture. There's always new issues, always new problems. Every problem is different. Every client, every request, everything that happens tends to be different. So it's never boring. That's the first thing that caught my attention. And it's always challenging. So that's nice because you get to see a lot of what goes on in the industry, a lot of the kind of dull, horrible parts that no one wants to see, no one wants to take care of. You have to go there and kind of get them going and get them fixed. So that's very nice. And it's also, I consider myself a creative person, and it's a role that, in my opinion, requires a lot of creativity. Most of the time, clients come with requests. They don't know the localization industry. So you have to take what they're saying and create something and be creative and come up with new ideas on how to make that happen, because you don't usually say no to the client or to a stakeholder. You need to figure out what's the best way to do it and get it done, however you can.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what's interesting.
It does sound interesting. Sounds like you're a very passionate problem solver.
I like that. And that's why I got there. And I was a project manager before, which also requires a lot of creativity sometimes. And I enjoy that part of project management. And I think that translates well into solutions architecture. So, yes.
Yeah, it sounds great that you enjoy what you're doing. So you mentioned that you will need to communicate with both internal teams and also external clients. Can you tell us what were some of the challenges that you had when you were communicating with them? And what do you think would be the best practices when you're doing that?
Of course. Well, there are different challenges depending on the type of stakeholder. Different challenges when you're communicating with clients, and different challenges when you're communicating with internal teams, project managers, or I don't know, another team within the company. And I think I can start with clients. Most of the time, clients, unless they have a very mature localization level, or they know localization very well and have a designated team, they are usually not very versed in localization. So they don't really understand what goes on. They just think they can send you any text and you can just translate the words and send it back. And it's usually not that straightforward and not that easy, as we in localization know. So the challenge in communicating with the clients, I think, is trying to put everything in their words, trying to communicate what they need or what we think they need in a way that they can understand, and that makes sense to them, not only from a localization point of view, but from a business perspective. So that it makes sense to them that they are going to be getting maybe more money, or they are going to be meeting their business needs due to localization, because oftentimes they think localization is going to be something easy and cheap most of the time, and it's usually not. So you need to convince them and give them hard data on why they are doing this and how it's going to help them in the long run. So that's the difficult part about communicating with clients. And with internal stakeholders, they understand localization, they understand the value of localization. But in my case, I'm working with internal stakeholders for automation, so streamlining workflows and production workflows, so PM workflows. And oftentimes there's this misconception that automation is gonna get rid of PMs, which is not, in my opinion. And they are kind of resistant of technology and getting new workflows or new technologies to kind of do parts of their job. But in real life, it's hard to find a way to explain to them why it's adding value, because they are, in the end, they're working on more valuable tasks instead of just moving files or something. Or adapting to a new technology. It's always hard to adapt to a new technology because it's prone to error. You can make some mistakes. So you really need to understand their position and understand how to explain the benefit for them, not from your point of view, but from their point of view. So that's sometimes difficult for internal stakeholders. So it's two different challenges, but it's challenging in both situations.
What you just said actually reminded me of something that I read today. They said that localizers should make localization a product and try to make user experience better for the clients. That's like what we're doing. Yeah, that's very interesting. And also, because you also mentioned you would use automation to improve the localization processes. Could you give us some examples of the kinds of improvements you've made?
Sure. So we have different initiatives going on at the company, but right now, one of the bigger ones is to automate workflows. Just like localization maturity levels, there's automation levels. So let's say like automation level 1 is just you get an email, you get the files, you put them in a folder, all manual steps, you get them back, you put them in a folder, export them and send them back. And the most advanced automation level would be to just like client put something in a folder, a program reads it, grabs it, gets it to the translator and gets it back. And it's almost like no hands-on. So we're trying to automate all accounts to a better level. And this means that we're trying to create jobs. I don't mean like manual jobs, but automated jobs that will take less time for the project managers to move files around. That's essentially it. Also, it might require some machine translation or like better leverage with TMs, pre-translation, things like that we know are gonna make things faster. So that's what we're doing with automation.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful because I know that like the manual work is a headache for many project managers out there. Nobody wants to be a file monkey anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, project managers, in my opinion, are usually very well versed in localization, and moving files around is not related to localization and to the interesting part of the translation industry, which is like the language issues and things like that. It's just moving files from one folder to another. So that's no fun for everyone, in my opinion, and it doesn't really add value from them. And it takes a lot of time because it's moving files, but you multiply that by lots of different projects, lots of different accounts. So it's usually like it takes their whole time.
Yeah, totally agreed. So back to job hunting, because we're trying to help people to get into localization industry. What do you think would be the necessary skills, or what level of technical knowledge do you think does it take for someone to become a solutions architect?
I feel it depends on the company. Some companies do require, the client side, for example, for solutions architecture does require a high level of technical skills. The vendor side requires more of the knowledge of the industry as a whole, rather than actual technical development skills or coding skills. But I'd say it does require a certain level of technical skills. And if you don't have technical skills, if you're not like full stack developer like I am not a full stack developer. I can get some code and maybe internalize it, but I could never write code right now. So I don't have strong technical skills. I think they would be useful, but I don't have them. So I don't think it takes a lot of that for a localization solutions architect, but it does take a lot of knowledge, deep understanding of the industry. And that not necessarily coming for experience, but from actual curiosity in the industry and being informed, going to conferences, reading articles of the newest technologies. So it does require that curiosity and that kind of passion for the industry, because in the end, you're hearing a lot of things and you need to hear different needs and translate them into an actual solution that exists. So you need to have a large repertoire of what's going on in the industry to be able to find something that will fit. I think that's the main thing. Another thing that is required is, I feel, maybe not a lot of experience in translation, but not to be siloed or specialized in just one area. So if you are maybe trying to get some experience and you want to be a solutions architect in the future, I was a freelance localization specialist most of my time, but I tried to take different projects. So maybe a software project, and then another thing was a technical project, and another thing was a quality assurance project. So not
of everything.
yeah, I didn't fall into one area, and that I think helped me a lot because I understand a little bit of different things, even though some I don't like it helps me get a broader understanding. And for solutions architecture, I feel you need a very broad understanding of what's going on. So I feel that's it. Yeah, a well-rounded understanding of the industry, I would say, is the main point for solutions architecture, or the point that's helped me the most.
Wow, thank you. That's very helpful. You actually part of answered my next question. That would be, what do you think would be some of the good ways to get the improve capabilities or improve our skills? But you already mentioned, like, we need to try to get in touch with different kinds of projects. Well, is there any other ways that you think people can, like, either improve their skills or knowledge, or just improve their visibility?
Yes, I think something that I find a little bit easier, of course it requires a little bit of time commitment, but it's more feasible than working in different projects, because I understand, I just mentioned that working in different projects, but maybe you don't have the contacts or you're just starting, so it's not like you're going to be able to get a lot of freelance projects off the bat. But a good way to leverage that, I would say, is just taking free courses online or LinkedIn Learning. I know you admit have LinkedIn Learning for free. So those kinds of courses are great. And taking different courses in different areas, I don't know, quality management, APIs, whatever, that something technical, localization for developers, that will help you build a kind of portfolio with different skills, which is what I'm saying, you need different skills, broad skills. So I'd say that's a good way to do that. Also, I feel mentorship is great. And if you have the chance to get into a mentorship program, I would highly recommend that, because it's something that not only will give you a broader network, but it will also make you understand what's going on in the industry and maybe what path you need to take or what courses you need to take. So I would definitely try to leverage that. If you don't have a mentorship program or you don't find a mentor, just talk to your teachers, talk to your peers, to some of your peers that have already graduated and are working in the industry. Just ask them for their opinion. Most people I've seen are very kind, are very open to share. So and I know they repeat this at Miss all the time, like, just don't go and just ask them for a job, because that's not nice, but just really speaking to them and asking them what they're doing and what's going on will help you to get an understanding of the industry and will help you to decide what decisions to make. So I think that's very valuable too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's like what our professors have been telling us ever since we came to Miss, like, keep networking. Know more people.
Yeah, and I just recently, I'm gonna add something. Sorry, Ren, I know this was 10 minutes, but I just recently reached out to someone just because I was curious about her position, and I found that they were willing to talk to me. And so it's really interesting to see that most people, at least in our industry, are willing to share. So just reach out, and if they don't respond, then they don't respond. But most of them are gonna be able to share at least something, and I feel everyone has different backgrounds and different experiences, and there's always something valuable to take from everyone. So if you have the chance to just talk to people, And I mean, surveys like this or interviews like this are a good way to get to know people and to get to know what they're doing. So I think this is great. Like, this is not mentorship, but it's a kind of way to build your network and understand the job market.
Yeah. All right. Our one last question. Looking back on how you got here and knowing what you know now, what are some of the things that you wish you knew at the time when you were still in school, or something? Maybe there's something you would have done differently. Would you like to share?
Sure. Well, I think I would have tried to highlight my skills and my strengths more, because I know sometimes when we're graduating, maybe from me, you feel you lack the experience and you lack some things, and that might be true, but we also have a lot of skills that are very useful. And I know this, I had other skills from experience, but I know I'm talking about like the specific skills that we have, for example, from me. So in the interview process, in the screening process, just mention those skills. Try to avoid highlighting what you don't have, because that can be learned. And I feel if you have a mentality to learn and to try to be open to learning new things, that shouldn't be a problem. But try to highlight just what you know and what you do well. And there's a lot of things that I know you guys will do well, like coming out of me. So try to highlight that. I think that's very valuable. And also one thing that I would say it's a good tip. I mean, don't apply for manager, senior position jobs, but sometimes there are jobs that seem a little bit out of reach, that you don't fill in all the requirements. And this job I'm in right now, I didn't fill all the requirements. Some requirements were fairly technical and I don't have that knowledge. I still applied and I got the job. So just don't be afraid to apply to jobs that might seem a little bit hard to reach. You might get rejected, but you just might get them. So just feel apply to those as well and try to network with those as well if you're interested in the position and you feel you would be a good fit.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Thanks,
All right.
Ren.
Sure. Thank you. This would be the end of our interview today. Thank you for your time and
No,
hope
thank
you
you
have
for
a great day.
inviting me. You too, Ren. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.